So, Evan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Matt. I'm honestly super pumped to be here. I truly feel like it's an honor to get to be on the show, and I'm just excited. I always enjoy getting to talk to you, and I'm excited for a great conversation.
Awesome. So, Evan is a former Elite Football Academy student from many moons ago, and well, he's much younger than myself, but he's a guy who has got a great story to tell. He's someone that we deal with now in the business world, which we can get to, but. Evan is a guy who's a heck of an athlete in his own right. They did a lot in the game of football, had a heck of a high school career at Westminster, and he's going to give some real good insight today into multiple aspects of the game and his perspective, and I think learn from his story as well. So, Evan, would you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, man, since I can remember, I always wanted to be a football player. I grew up watching guys like, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, that era. And I always wanted to play quarterback, and that's since the day I can remember. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I worked to do. Matt, I probably met you going into high school, freshman year. Yep. That's when we started training together. And honestly, just super grateful that I had the chance to, work with a guy like you. You were fundamental in my growth as an athlete and my ability to throw the football, and even the skills training stuff that I did at Elite with my running and running mechanics and throwing mechanics. So like Matt said, born and raised in St. Louis, went to Westminster, had a chance to play some college ball. I ended up walking onto my dream school, the University of Missouri. I was there for a couple years on and off. So when I look back on my just career as an athlete, I think I learned a lot through just being young and dumb and failure, and I have so many takeaways from that, more so than I think success and failure is a great way to learn. So left Mizzou, I went to Missouri State. I wanted to go and compete, and just wasn't happy there, so I went back to Mizzou and ended up getting moved to the receiver position, which, man, I just didn't want to play receiver. I found out pretty quickly I don't like football. I just like playing quarterback. So transferred again, ended up at the University of West Florida, which awesome school. I loved my time there. Pensacola, Florida. It's a awesome city, super cool college town. They're a newer program, Division II. They've already played in a few national championships. They've won one. I think it's just a matter of time before they're D1. But when I was there, had a chance. I was competing for the starting job, and had a pretty brutal injury in spring ball. They had the quarterbacks go live, which is it's a good way to see who, playing live is a little bit different than when the quarterbacks are off limits, you know what I mean? So yeah. I get why they did it, but in that game, had a pretty nasty neck injury and had several concussions. And through that recovery process, I learned a lot. And, now what I'm doing for a career, it's really what kind of pushed me in that direction, because a lot of the doctors that I went to, they just didn't have an answer, so I went more to like holistic doctors. And man, that's where I learned a lot about just nutrition. And, that's how I really healed from a lot of that stuff. And that's what, sent me in this direction for my career. And I know we're going to get into a little bit of that today from what I understand, just the nutrition side of things. But yeah, man, that's a little bit about kind of my story. And
well, you brought up an excellent point. And I think this is something that JP and I have touched on numerous times, but I think there's an issue, and you came out right out of the gate and you talked about learning through failure. And I think we live in this day and age where kids are so upset about so many different things. They're very sensitive to a bunch of different topics, and one of which is failing. Yeah. They don't want to fail in front of other people. They don't want to put themselves in a position where they might be made fun of. They don't want to put themselves in a position where they might feel uncomfortable. And the unfortunate truth is athletics, that stage, you go back to the man in the arena, speech, like that whole concept of putting yourself out there and being the one competing and earning the right to even be criticized, I think is part of the process. But from your perspective, what you said about learning is huge, because I'm telling you, we see kids. I gave the example last week, like we have guys that like in the facility, like say defensive backs are really shutting down the receivers and kids just get mad about that, or offensive linemen are beating up on the defensive linemen. People get really mad about that. Like they don't want to use the experience to help themselves get better. It's easier not to do it. Or you might be on a 7-on-7 team and your team lost in the semifinals and you think the easier path is to go play for a different team or, whatever it might be. There's always escape hatches, but the unfortunate truth is if you're not willing to learn from your mistakes and willing to make mistakes, like life is going to be very difficult, and sports and therein of are going to be very difficult. So, your learning experience that you were talking about, like, you get to University of Missouri, right? That's in the golden age of Mizzou at the time. Like Gary Pinkel was the coach. They're a really good team. They've come off some good success. Maybe they weren't at the top of their game, but they had some recent success. A bunch of guys in the NFL. And you get there and you have this goal of playing quarterback, and then you realize a lot of times the fix is in. Like they don't necessarily care, right?
Yeah,
They want to see, if you can help them at another position, they're more than willing to have you there, right? And so, what was your experience like making that jump from high school to college? Major Division I college football.
Yeah. Well, I mean, before that, Matt, I think that's a great point. What you talk about with failure, and I think part of what you touched on is like the willingness to fail. Like you have to be willing to put yourself in a position where you could very well fail. And like, again, through those experiences, that's where you learn and grow so much. And, I think that's a perspective thing. I think that perspective takes time because failure sucks, man. Like it's not fun to lose. It's not fun to go through those experiences. And I think, again, in hindsight's where I learned a lot of this stuff. And there's even a quote that I love that stuck with me. It's a Kobe Bryant quote, and he was being interviewed, and they asked him, like, hey, Kobe, like, how do you view failure? And his answer shocked me. He was like, it's exciting, and I've just never heard anybody talk about it that way. And he went on to explain just because when he fails, and he talked about when he was young in his career and it was in the playoffs and he was missing a lot of three-pointers. He's like, I now see an opportunity where I can improve and get better. And I think that the perspective, I think first and foremost, the willingness to put yourself in a position to fail is key. But I think also being able to take that failure and sit through, even, as you know, Matt, like watching film sucks when you had a bad game. Like you have to sit through that. But through that, you learn a lot about like, hey, man, here's some mistakes I made in the game. Here's some changes I can make in terms of my progression in that play, or, I down the safety or whatever it is. It's like, watching film, going through and reflecting on failure in whatever scenario is never fun, but you have to be willing to put yourself in a position to fail, and you have to learn from those experiences, and you have to choose to.
100%, because and that's a tough thing when you're in high school. A lot of times, and it's funny, I'm going through this with my son right now, where you get to the end of the season, everybody makes a highlight film of their season, right? So we go back, we reflect on the high points of the season, and it's really natural to do because every kid in America makes a highlight film for their family, for themselves, to kind of make it, make the season wrap. But then, as a high school player, you're doing it for recruiting and those purposes. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we forget all the bad plays, right? We forget about all the times in the season, all the adversity. So an exercise with a lot of players, and I'm having my son do it, is go back and objectively watch all the practice film you got, all the game film you got, and remember all those times you made mistakes. Mm-hmm. Remember all the times it did not go your way, but also look at, one bad throw. Did it turn into two bad throws, right? Or did the next throw or next play, did you respond with the big play? Those things can speak volumes about who you are as an athlete, and also like the maturation process. So I think there's so much to be learned. And I was working with a quarterback last night, and I just told him, I said, look, some of his throws were not great, but they were like on target. Mm-hmm. They were not perfect spirals, but he was getting upset about it. And I told him, I said, listen, you're getting upset about something that no one else is even really noticing. But you're somewhat conscious of it, and it's making you mad. But what's making you mad? Internally, are you getting mad, or do you think you look bad because the spiral's not there? So, who are you holding yourself accountable? People that are, judging you, that really have no say in the matter, right? The people that matter most is yourself in the equation and your position coach, right? Because those are the people that ultimately have the say in what happens in your destiny, if you will, as an athlete. And I think far too many people worry about things and people that have no influence at all in their grand scheme of their development. So, I think it's a tough lesson learned, and I think pushing through it and learning it at an earlier age is really, really good. And but to your point, sometimes it does take perspective and time because you're not mature enough to see the light, right?
Yeah,
so to
for
speak.
sure. No, for sure. And I think that's why, having, great coaches or great people that can kind of instill that perspective is important too. But yeah, I mean, to get around to your initial question of like, what was the biggest difference between, or kind of that transition going into college? I mean, there's definitely a pretty significant transition, when you go from high school Missouri football to, SEC football. And, there's a difference in size for sure, and a difference in speed. For me, the biggest difference was the complexity of the game. When you look at how much more complex the offenses are or the defenses are, and when you line up against a defense in high school, it's like you can look out there and it's like, all right, it's cover two. From then it's easy to pick those defenses apart, but you go out there and you're playing college ball. You get out there and you think it's cover two, and then all of a sudden they're disguising the coverage and they switch into 3 or 4 or 6 or something like that. And it's just, man, that was a transition for me because my offense in high school was very simplistic, and even like understanding, I mean, just some of the basic fundamentals of the game. Like I didn't have that stuff. So that was a big transition. I think, for me, again, being able to look back and wish that I did things differently. Man, for me, it was just I had a major lack of focus. Going to a big school like the University of Missouri, it's like, man, there's man, like I talked about, since I was a young kid, all I wanted to do was play football, and then I got to college and, man, all I wanted to do is have fun, and that became my focus. There's just so much temptation at a school like that when it comes to, and you think it's what you're supposed to do. You think you're supposed to go out and party and, go to the bars
Correct.
and pursue girls and that kind of thing. And it's like, man, there's so many distractions. And if you want to make it at that level, especially in a position like I came in, like, man, you got to be dedicated. You got to take it seriously. You got to approach it like a job. And it's, you just have to, man, I feel like I pissed away a lot of opportunities, just by I had great opportunities. I just didn't prepare for them and dedicate to them like I wish I would have.
And to that point, I think it's like anything else in life, right? Like there's choices that you have to make. It's no different than being successful in business. Like there's so many distractions, so many things you should be, that you can do, that you can enjoy. But you have to understand there's a cost to all of that. So we were talking about Brady Cook a few weeks ago, and I had asked him, I think after spring game, I said, hey, we were talking. I said, what are you guys doing tonight? He goes, well, I'm going to get dinner with my family, and then I'm going to go out. And then I said, well, how many times do you go out a year? And his answer was he goes out twice a year, right at the end of the season and right after spring ball.
I love that.
So that level of dedication, right? And he was doing that when no one even knew who he was, really.
Right.
People knew who he was, but they didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to that. And there's that dedication to yourself, the mission at hand, right? And a lot of times, and at your age, when you're distracted by it, you're part of the majority. Like the vast majority of kids is going to enjoy the process, but that delayed gratification is really difficult when it comes to being an 18-year-old, good-looking guy on a college campus full of distractions and fun times and all those things. Because, there are plenty of guys on your football team that will go have fun, right?
Yeah, for sure.
There is a whole subset of people and there's some guys, and you've seen it, where it's a lure. Like some of them are actually pretty good at doing both, right? There's
Totally.
some guys
Yeah.
that can actually do it, and
Yeah.
and who knows what level they're holding themselves back. But
Yeah.
but there are certainly guys. I remember being in winter conditioning that would be out the night before and then in there the next morning, and I'm thinking, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
This is unbelievable. Like.
Yeah.
They're torturing us, and you can still smell the night before on
sure.
this guy,
Yeah.
and he's surviving the workout. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, those distractions I think are very real, and to ignore them is at your own peril because you're going to experience that. And I think
For sure.
that whole in Mizzou and any other big school is going to have plenty of distractions, and smaller schools will have distractions, right? So,
Yeah.
Having a game plan going in and acknowledging that I think is huge. So, while you're there, you're learning, you're probably getting pushed to a level like you talked about, like the level of, and this is no slight on high school football, but the level of complexity is very low, right?
For sure.
Because you figure on a high school football team, 95% of the kids there are there to play high school football. It's an activity that they do. They enjoy playing football. Their buddies are there. Someone talked them into playing football, whatever it might be. Or their dad played football. They want to play football, whatever it might be. So now you're there, but you know, those guys aren't dedicated, right? They're the guys that aren't doing a lot of extra work. They're there, but we need them to have a team. So, you know, you have to coach to that level to a certain degree, right? And because you can't have a guy over excelling past everybody else because it's a team game, right? You know, you can't be doing, you know, progressing, you know, on 4 different guys if we can block for a second, right? I mean, it doesn't work. Yeah. So, you know, as you started to kind of mature in the game, you know, you get there and they say, okay, hey, and they're constantly evaluating the athleticism of the kids. So they see and they go, hey, why don't you try some receiver, right? Like, and you're thinking, like, why would I want to do that, right? And you're not the first quarterback that I've had that, you know, conversation with where it's like, dang, you know, they want to move you, and it's just a numbers game a lot of times, but it's also a compliment because they think you're athletic enough to do it.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. You know, and I think it was when it comes to the receiver opportunity, I think it was just something that I didn't, you know, like I said, at the end of the day, you know, it just wasn't my passion, you know, and I don't necessarily think it was a bad move, or I don't, you know, necessarily would deter any quarterback that is in a situation like that from maybe pursuing something else, you know, and pursuing a different school, especially in today's day and age, and like how you're able to do that in the transfer portal. It's like, man, if you love quarterback and that's your passion and that's what you want to do, you know, go do it. You know, look at Ryan Tannehill. You know, he's a guy that they did move him to receiver, you know, at Texas A&M, and he did it for a couple years. And I remember hearing stories of him after practice. He'd sit in the quarterback film room and watch film with them and throw after practice. And he ended up staying at the same school, right? But 2 years later, ended up getting the chance to play the quarterback position and excelled. And now he's been in the NFL for, like 10 years.
Yeah,
so
he's gotten paid quite handsomely to do it. So,
for sure.
You know, I think that is true because, to your point, if you're going to do something and it takes a lot of effort, I mean, college football takes an inordinate amount of time out of your schedule. When you see what the other kids are doing as college students, it makes you very, very kind of bitter to a degree because if you're doing something that's not really that much fun for you and you're not loving being a receiver and you're putting all this effort in, and you see everybody else having a great time at school and they have half days essentially and they're getting to do whatever they want to do after they get their work done. And they have a lot of social activities, things going on. So it's very, very it's two different worlds, right? Yeah. So everybody comes and cheers and watches the football team, but there is a level of a tenor of work that goes on that is unlike most any other thing in a college campus. So
for sure,
as you progress through that, you know, you have to have those conversations with yourself like, hey, like, this probably isn't the place for me. I'm going to go do something different, right?
Yeah. Well, 100%, you know, and even thinking back to what we were talking about before that, and it relates to this too. I think in life, what I've learned is you have to do essentially what the opposite of what everybody else does, like what the majority does, right? And I think it's even fair to say on a college program like that, probably the majority of the team is worried about the wrong stuff, man, you know, and there's even almost a sense of peer pressure to it, you know, like the kids that are focused on football and watching film and staying in, it's like, dude, what's wrong with that guy? That's kind of the mentality at times. Then you're on that campus and all your, you know, for me, I mean, I had a lot of buddies that were in fraternities and stuff like that. So it's like, man, I fell into what everybody else was doing. But if you want to make it at that level, if you want to make it in business, and that's what I've learned in my career, you know, getting to work for Andy Frisella, I mean, just a lot of great leaders and people that I've gotten to watch learn who excel in business and in life that way, is they do the opposite of what everybody else does. And really what everybody else is not willing to do. You know, it's taken... For football, you know, it's staying after practice. It's not going out at night. It's watching extra film. It's studying the playbook. In business, it's, man, you're going to excel in your career if you stay there an extra hour. You know, you're taking 5 extra calls. You know, you're learning more about the business. You're reading books. You know, you're watching podcasts to trying to develop your mind and your skill set. And, man, in any area in life, if you look at guys like, you know, Tom Brady or Michael Jordan, I mean, those guys weren't the most athletically gifted or God had the most God-given ability. I mean, those guys just had almost a insane mentality when it came to their dedication to their sport, and that's why they excelled, because they did what everybody else wouldn't do for decades, and that's what separates them. So if you're a high school kid, you're a college kid, man, don't worry about what everybody else is doing. If you're doing the opposite of what everybody else is doing, you're probably doing the right thing, and you have to have that mentality to separate yourself.
That is well said, because as you start to see Tom Brady's, he's wrapped his career and he's starting to do a lot more speaking engagements, and he's doing a lot of just events, and he's opening up and kind of letting people know like what his mentality. We knew when he was a player you could hear it, but he's saying a lot more about like basically like get rid of your excuses, get rid of all the distractions, all those different things. And you referenced Kobe Bryant earlier. He talked about, getting up and his incessant ability to practice. There's got to be a reason why you're doing these things, and it should not be external. It should not be, hey, these people, I have to do this because coach said this, right? I have to do this because my parents want me to. There needs to be an internal drive that says, I'm going to do this because I want to do this. It is okay to be externally motivated from the sense of like, hey, I'm going to prove these guys wrong. I'm going to beat these guys. I'm going to show everybody. All that's great. But it also comes from inside that says, hey, this is what my approach is going to be. This is what I'm going to do, and no one's going to stop me. But you also have to take the action. Like saying and doing are two different things, right?
Sure.
So getting around and building those habits, especially when you're younger, and having listening to conversations like this and listening to people that have been there, Tom Brady is opening up a lot of secrets that really are not secrets if they're common sense, honestly.
Yeah.
But so many people and kids are distracted by the glitzy stuff, the internet stuff, and the things that they think people care about. There's a lot of things that people just like, attention spans are minimal. So, yeah, great. One-handed catch, awesome for you. Let's move on to the next thing. What are you going to do now?
Yeah.
So, as kids start to focus on, what they should be doing in the off season, things that they should be doing day in and day out, that's one of the reasons why I'm excited to have you on here, because you're, as you transition, into the business world, you're now with a company, Phorm, which you referenced Andy Frisella. He is a guy, and Chris Klein, they've built this unbelievable business, which, it's right in our backyard. And then you're the perfect kind of guy to get hired in there because, like you said, you've learned from your mistakes. You're an athlete. You have all these different things that you can bring to the table. You're articulate. You have a great faith-based, foundation. All these things, as someone wanting to hire a young person, those are things you look for, right? So at Phorm, we're going to talk about what you do. But I think, one of the things that I find most interesting, and we have at our facility have a partnership, which you help facilitate. And I think, one of the things that we really, strive to be is the best in the country. And so when you do that, you have to be around other people that are the best in the country.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
Right? And so, we rise together because you want to be around other people that are high performers. So,
yeah.
As you look at like the process of developing athletes, sure, we're really good at teaching people how to do their position-specific skills. We're really good on our performance side about getting people bigger, faster, stronger, all that stuff. But we'll take it down to the most foundational approach, and that is, nutrition and sleep are the two things that really probably get the least amount of focus but have the most bang for your buck, because those two elements are often forgot about because it's, we all eat and we all sleep. So it's just something I do. But there's a science to it, and there's a reason why you want to do things the right way. So, from your perspective, and I followed your journey online, and we'll tell people how to see you on Instagram and online. But you've taken your nutrition and your health seriously. Was that something you did in college?
No, not at all. And before that, again, you drop these little snippets, and I think they're so. I just want to kind of reiterate it. It's so important who you're surrounding yourself with. There's an old saying that I'm sure a lot of people have heard. It's you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I've seen that to be so true in both ends in my life. Like, I've had a lot of bad influences that I've spent my time around, and like, you become like those people. You think like them, you act like them, you do what they do. And later on in my career, you know, I've started to surround myself with guys like, you know, Andy Frisella and people at Phorm, and man, a lot of high achievers and driven people. And you mentioned faith. You know, I've put myself in a position with a lot of men of faith, and it's like, man, that has transformed my life, you know. So be careful with who you're spending your time with. You know, the kids that you grew up with, just because you grew up with them doesn't mean you have to be friends with them, man. Like, if you're serious about going and playing at the next level or playing in the NFL, like, man, people can drag you down or they can build you up, you know. So another, you know, key point I think there. But yeah, you know, I think you're 100% right, Matt. When you look at nutrition, I think it's just, and we were talking a little bit about this earlier, man. I think that it's just the fundamental flaw when you look at America, when you look at our education system, when you look at athletes, it's a lack of understanding when it comes to nutrition, man. Like, the average person on the street that you might ask, like, man, nobody understands how nutrition works. And, you know, the unfortunate thing is a lot of social media, a lot of, you know, companies, a lot of influencers in the you know, social media space, they're essentially spreading wrong information, you know, because people want the easy way out in any area in life. And if you can tell somebody that you have a magic pill or a fad diet or, you know, some easy solution, it's like, man, people are going to bite at that every time. So I think as a young athlete, when you're trying to make it to the next level, when you're trying to separate yourself, and as an athlete, you're always in competition, right? You're in competition with yourself. You're in competition with your teammates. You're in competition with your conference, with everybody else at your level, and you're trying to make it to the next level as well. So you're competing against everybody. You got to take advantage of every single competitive advantage you have. Most kids are watching film. Most kids are working out. Some kids are doing skill development, not all of them. You should be doing all those things. But I'd say most kids are not focused on their nutrition, you know, and it's when it comes to what you're doing in the weight room and your strength and your performance and your recovery, nutrition is half that battle, right? So if you're working out and you're training hard, but you're not worried about what you're putting in your body, you're not going to get the results that you're even, you know, putting in the work for, right? So if you can learn about nutrition, if you can apply this stuff as a high school athlete, as a youth athlete, as a college athlete, you're going to gain a massive advantage over your competition. You know, I shared a little bit about my, you know, experience, and, you know, I went to 2 Division I programs, 1 Division II program. Man, none of these schools, Mizzou the most, but very minimal when I was there, any information on nutrition. I mean, dude, most of these guys myself included at the time, were fueled by chicken fingers and French fries and ice cream. And, you know, again, a lot of guys are out.
Whatever tastes good, right?
Yeah, for sure. You know, and a lot of guys, exactly right. You know, and I think that when a lot of people look at nutrition, I think another misconception is, well, you got to eat healthy. And I think most people don't really categorize healthy well either. You know, for them, that's just eating, you know, salads or, you know, cutting out stuff like that. It's just, you have to look at nutrition as really, it's a output and input thing. Like, what you're putting into your body is what you're going to get out, and you have to be giving yourself the right nutrients. I'd say the biggest thing, like low-hanging fruit, that any athlete or probably anybody can apply, even parents out there that might be listening to this, is you got to eat more protein. Most people are significantly under eating protein. Even in my experience, when I first started to learn about this stuff, Matt, like, if I was like, man, if I'm doing one thing right, I'm eating enough protein.
Right, yeah.
Until I tracked my food, and that's what, you know, and we can get into that. But tracking your food is essentially the only way that you can really understand what you're eating, you know, and then you can really dial this in and get the exact results you want. You know, and there's apps for that. Phorm, we have a nutrition tracking app.
Yeah,
there's
we'll
other
put a
ones out
link
there.
to the app that they can look at, because that's something I want you to talk more about, because the app, especially everybody's so used to using things like that now.
Yeah.
But kids in particular, you know, if we could teach at this younger age, not only is it going to help them in their athletics, but it's going to help them long-term in life. And unfortunately, there's just so many choices out there, and, you know, they pick what's easiest, right? And they move on. And then, you know, but it's this cascade effect of, like, you know, it just starts to erode your performance. And yeah, there are guys that are good enough to get away with it, but eventually you're going to run into people that are doing it the right way.
Yeah, for sure. No, 1,000%. You know, there is guys that get away with it. And, you know, there's examples like in golf, John Daly, and in football, Chad Ochocinco. You know, he's big on he's a McDonald's guy, and he always brags about how he ate McDonald's all the time. But if you really think about it, that's the exception to the rule. And what if those guys took it seriously? Like, how much different of an athlete, how much bigger of an impact could they have made? And if you look at the best of the best, think about guys like LeBron James, Tom Brady, anybody at the top of the sport. They are dialed in on their nutrition, man. It's this is something they take very seriously. So you should probably do the same thing, if you're trying to be a better athlete. But from a protein standpoint, most people are under eating protein. When I first tracked my food, I would say most people are probably in this ballpark. You're probably eating 100 to 120 grams on a daily basis. As a male, as an athlete, that's significantly under eating protein, and protein's essential. It's a key structural component to pretty much everything in our body: our hair, skin, our bones, our nails, things like that. But as athletes, it's essential to recover and build muscle tissue. So again, if you're training hard, if you're in the gym, you're lifting, you're squatting, you're running, and you're under eating protein, well, you're not recovering properly. You don't build muscle in the gym, you break it down. So if you're not eating enough protein, well, you're not going to rebuild and gain the muscle that you're putting in the work for, right? So a general rule of thumb is you should be eating about 1 gram 1 gram of protein per pound of your goal body weight. So, for example, I'm currently about 215 pounds. I'm in a bulk right now, so I'm trying to gain weight. I'm trying to get to 225. So on a daily basis, I'm eating 225 grams of protein. And that's a bit of a challenge sometimes, and I think a good way to start to implement this is focus all of your meals that you're eating around protein. So for breakfast, don't eat waffles and syrup. You got to eat a lot of protein, man. So it could be eggs, egg whites, Greek yogurt. That's a great way to get in some protein in breakfast. For lunch, it's as simple as like beef and rice. I eat eight ounces of ground beef every day. That's roughly like 60 grams of protein, a cup of rice. It's a great way to fuel for a workout or for football practice. It's simple, right? Back to what I was talking about.
Tastes good.
Yeah, it tastes
good. Yeah,
it tastes
right.
good. It's not complicated. You can do it consistently. You can meal prep that. And then for dinner, something similar. So you have to surround your meals around protein. And if you can do that, you're going to notice a massive difference in the muscle that you're building, the strength that you have, your ability to recover from your training sessions. And again, this is one simple thing that you can do as an athlete to separate yourself. And the only way that you know how much protein you're eating is by tracking it. So download an app where you can do this. There's bar scanners on all the food that we eat.
Yep.
And you just scan the barcode, you'll track it. You kind of get a good baseline of where am I at. I'd say you're probably safe bet. You're probably under eating protein. And then you can really start to build your diet around that. And there's some other things that maybe we could get into that are, some good low-hanging fruit like that people can take and apply. But I'd say that's a big one.
I think, with the young athletes too, so we get asked all the time, like, okay, what should I be supplementing? So I think first things first, as you said, spend time eating the right foods, okay? The protein shake, which we tell all of our athletes, like, look, as soon as you get done working out, because a lot of them are not ready to just sit down and eat a full meal, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
you're at a point where you're starting to get hungry, but you're also like, and I'm going to say it, Phorm's got any variety of flavor you want, and like even for the pickiest of person, right? So
yeah.
There's within that 30, 35 minutes, 40 minutes of working out, you need to get something in your system, and most of the time, your goal is not to go straight and eat, right? Because your options to eat right after working out usually are not your best options. So if you can get that protein in you, and I go back to, and you know him well, Brett Fisher was at our facility for about 15 years, and this guy was the most ripped, in great shape, and he would always, after he get done, he'd go in his office and he would have some sort of candy or treat that he would eat with his protein.
Yep.
Right? And so he would take that, and people would always be like, why has he got pie and cookies? And well, he's like, this is the one time I allow myself to have that, because once I have that little cheat, if you will, but the cheat was to get some sugar in the system
For sure.
to take with the protein, which helps synthesize the process, which you would know way more than me. But I always thought that was an interesting thing, because, we're not saying you can't eat and cheat every once in a while. We're saying you need to get good food. And if there is ever a time to eat a little bit more and cheat, it's when you're a young guy, right? When your fire's burning, right? But if that's how you're fueling yourself all the time, that's not going to work. So you have to have a strategic plan. We're not saying be robots. We're not saying, completely wholesale change. Focus on like the low-hanging fruit, protein. Also, have a plan. If you're going to be done working out and it's a little bit of time before you're going to have a chance to eat, then you plan ahead. You bring your shaker cup with some protein. You fire up some water, shake it up, drink it. Your body will reward you with that. And having like the ignition, that is made by First Phorm, you just scoop that in with it, which is the same kind of Brett Fisher effect.
Exactly right. Yeah.
That's exactly what it does. It helps prime the ignition is the name, right? It primes the whole system to absorb and take in that protein. So I think there's some really cool tips and tricks with that me, as a guy who coaches kids that age, I also know a lot of them just are picky eaters. So like they're finicky, especially like in those late adolescent years, like when their engine isn't fully turned on, but they are very active. We have some kids that maybe do a 2-hour practice of whatever sport they're in, and then they'll come work out or train, or they're doing this 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week. At some point, you have to take care of what's taking care of you. So, and the food is the only way to get your body to recover and get it to do what it needs to do and then be better, right? We don't want to stay stagnant. You got to improve. So I think, as you look at those nutrition tips, I think, you guys are an excellent resource. That's why we partnered, because I will tell you that is the number one thing. We're not nutritionists. We don't have dietitians on staff. First Phorm does that by proxy, an extension. That's our go-to guys, because that's not us. That's not what we do. We build and develop athletes, but you also have to acknowledge when you're not the subject matter expert, and you have to let other people that know what they're doing, right? And we'll take a second, maybe diverge a little bit off of that, because one of the things that people may not understand about First Phorm is, so they're headquartered in St. Louis-based company. It's an awesome facility, but you walk and it's world class. And they've built more. They're headquartered in Fenton, where the old Chrysler plant used to be. Really neat complex. It's one of those things where, do yourself a favor, get online and search their headquarters. It is world class. So, but in their facilities, there are, how many advisors are there, like with the app, like that are nutritionists and dietitians, people like that? Like that's what the company does, right?
Yeah, for sure. No, 100%. I mean, we have so at First Phorm, we have almost 400 employees at this point. Like Matt said, I mean, our facilities are awesome. They're world class. Best way I could describe them is they're pretty much like Division I athletic facilities. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I mean, so we have a whole team of nutritionists. We have, I think, almost 10 registered dietitians at this point. A whole team of personal trainers. Even if you call up like our customer service, you talk to a real human being that is a certified personal trainer, So we have on the front lines of our company people that are there to educate, to help, to support. And I think, at the end of the day, obviously I love the company I work for. We have amazing resources, but this is probably, when it comes to nutrition, you can Google a lot of this stuff. Again, it's not that complicated. If you're somebody that's very self-motivated, you can find the information in our day and age, but you should probably go seek help, and you should probably get somebody to set up your macros and your nutrition, your calories and your protein, hold you accountable, walk you through this process. And we do that through the app. You download the app. You can get an advisor that's there to help you, support you, educate you, set up your macros. And that's another thing. Macros, people throw that word around. I'll explain it. It's short for macronutrients.
Please do.
So there's macronutrients, there's micronutrients. Macronutrients, they're going to make up the majority of our diet. That's, from what I understand the name, that's where that comes from, macro. So there's protein, carbohydrates, and fats, and they're all essential, right? And then there's micronutrients, and those are vitamins and minerals. Very important too. Mostly those are in like fruits and vegetables. I'd say a lot of the kids that you're talking about probably aren't eating a ton of those. From a supplementation standpoint, I think you don't have to overcomplicate it. And just a little side note here, I think any athlete, protein, creatine, and a multivitamin. I mean, that's pretty much what you need. But yeah, micronutrients are essential for pretty much every chemical process in our body. They're kind of the engine for our oil, or they're the oil for our engine, rather. Mm-hmm. So you got to be getting that stuff in. But yeah, something I struggled with when I was an athlete, I always struggled putting on weight, and I think that's something a lot of younger athletes do, just because they're not eating right. They have fast metabolisms. They're working out all the time. And it's just a simple equation, man. Like, I thought the answer was working out more, and that's not the answer. You don't gain weight that way. You gain weight by eating more food. So whether you're trying to lose weight or gain weight, it's a very simple equation. Again, it's inputs and outputs. So if you want to lose weight, you need to be in what's called a caloric deficit. So you burn more calories on a daily basis than you eat. If you're trying to gain weight, you need to eat more calories on a daily basis than you burn. And if you do that, you're guaranteed that you're gonna gain weight, right? And do it the right way and put on muscle. Because you can gain weight by eating a lot of food, but if you're not eating enough protein, well, you're just gonna get fat. The protein is what's gonna help you build that muscle and, again, help with recovery. So that's a little bit about macros. That's why people track their food. Is when you track your food, it is the only way that you actually know, for almost certain, what you're fueling your body with and what's going into your body. And if you have a specific goal like that, everybody kind of has a goal. You're either trying to lose weight, maintain your weight, or gain weight. When you're tracking your food, you can guarantee that you're going to do that. So if you want to gain weight, you're trying to put on muscle, track your food, be in a caloric surplus. Like I said, it's probably recommended, just like athletes are doing with you, Matt. You're trying to develop your skill. You should probably go see somebody that has experience, that's equipped, that can really walk you through that process. Do that with nutrition as well. Again, First Phorm has great resources. There's nutrition coaches, macro coaches, all over the place, really. But I would definitely encourage you to learn about macros, learn about how to track your food. Whether you're trying to lose weight, maybe you're an offensive lineman that's gotten put on a little bit too much, or you're a speed guy that's trying to put on some muscle, or track your food, eat more protein, and you're going to really get the results that you want. And that's the cool thing about nutrition, man, is it's very simple. And if you do it, if you do the right things, you're going to get the results you want.
I think that is well stated, because so many kids, whether it's throwing mechanics, blocking, eating, sleeping, it is not as difficult as everybody wants to make it to be, right? So if you're doing those things well, you're going to be all right. I go back to a kid like Brady Cook. He took his nutrition fairly serious in high school, and his body rewarded him for that, right? So he's a guy that, he's physically, he's in good shape. He was big enough, right? Because a lot of guys right now, leaving high school are not big enough for what the colleges want.
Sure.
Okay? And so you go, oh, well, they're going to add weight when you get there. But they don't need to do that. They have ready-made products that they can go get someone on a transfer portal. They can recruit someone that's doing the right things. They don't have to have you be their project. Okay? And that's how it works. And so you have to be your own biggest advocate, and you have to learn, right? You can't just go through life and say, well, I wish I would have known that. Well, yes. But nowadays, there are resources like what we're talking about right now, and you can find the solutions. And so, part of getting to that level of being that high-level guy, which we talk about, and I assume, any kid that's listening to this is trying to get to a college level, or their parent is trying to help them get to the college level. And that high level is anywhere from NAIA, Division III, up through Division I. That's high level. You're part of 6.8% of kids that get to play college football if you're in any of those levels. So that is an elite level group of people. But it's going to take more than just kind of wanting to do it. And so, those things like skills training, the things like lifting weights, the things like sleeping properly, which, I think a lot of kids take for granted. And I would say that the advent of the cell phone has probably been the single biggest deterrent to good sleep for every human being, not just kids. There's study after study that talks about blue light and what it does to your brain right before you go to sleep, and the activity that your brain and the circadian rhythm and all those different things. But the rule of thumb for sleep, it's pretty simple. 10 o'clock. You should be sleeping by 10 o'clock, as if you listen to any sleep expert, that is the time that always comes up. And there's a host of reasons why, but a lot of it's based off of just simple biology of human beings and the circadian rhythm with the sun and the moon and all of that, which is really complicated, but it's not. It's get to bed on time, and then your body can then repair. So like a really interesting thing too, Evan, like we talk about, like, you break yourself down at the gym, right? So say you go do a skills training session, same thing. say you're doing a weightlifting component, right? All those things, those skills. So there's the muscle side of it, which is going to get repaired while you're sleeping. But on the flip side, with skill development and skill acquisition, it's the exact same process.
Right.
So what happens while you're sleeping is your brain is downloading the day's activities into your system, right? If you don't get the sleep, just like not eating properly, you lose that workout. So you can be spinning your wheels and go, I'm not improving. Why am I never improving? Why is my mechanics still the same? Why is my foot striking the ground the same way? I've been practicing it for weeks. This coach isn't good. Well, if your brain does not have the ability to download the sequence into the what they call, the muscle memory or the neuromuscular system, then you're just basically like, you're just getting it out of your system. You're doing it for fun. And so there's little things like that as you start to kind of dig in, the guys that do that the best tend to win the most.
For sure.
Right? And the guys that tend to just not pay attention to the little things, and they think that the people around them, like their parents, are nagging them to get to sleep. They're not nagging them for just, for fun. They're nagging them because it's something they should be doing, right? I talk to my kids on my teams and the kids in our program about making good choices, about getting to sleep on time. And I would be willing to bet you 90% 95, 99% do not listen. It's in one ear, out the other. And the problem is that's okay. If that's your choice, you're an individual. You can make your own choices. But you also, in the same breath, can't say, well, why is this not happening for me? Why am I not being recruited? Why is this guy getting recruited? Well, I had better stats than him. Well, he weighs 205 pounds and you weigh 165.
Right.
That's a big difference in the mind of a coach.
For sure.
Yeah, but I was all conference. He wasn't. Okay? Guess what? They place value on guys that are the size they need to be. Yep. And so, the more you look at it, there's a lot of little decisions that turn into a big point of emphasis for how you get recruited and how you have success. And as well as I do, guys that come in with a lot of accolades and were like the higher level recruit, that guy seems to get more advantages and more chances than guys that maybe didn't have the same accolades. Did you see that happen in college?
Yeah, totally. And I think when you look at it, probably rightfully so. You know what I mean? And I think, Matt, you make a great point. Like, you got to be honest with yourself. When you're really evaluating yourself and you're comparing yourself against other kids or kids you're going to school with or kids that are getting offers that you're not, like, are you really doing all that you can do? Or are you putting in the work necessary? How else can you improve? You have to be willing to really hold yourself accountable and be honest. And that's essential. And I think from a sleep standpoint, yeah, I mean, man, you're 100% right. And I think it's similar to the nutrition thing is like, you don't have to try and live in a way that's unrealistic. There's little things that you can do that can make a big difference. So Matt's 100% right. I mean, blue light, what that tells your brain is basically that it's daytime. So when you're on your phone or you're playing video games and your body thinks it's daytime. So the circadian rhythm, that's not going to allow your body to get restful sleep, to fall asleep on time. Now, that doesn't mean you have to just stop using technology past 6 p.m. There's things that you can do. All of our iPhones, they have a blue light blocker built into it. It's the nighttime mode. It'll make your phone orange. So have that kicked in, anytime past like 8 p.m. That's how I do it. If you got to work on your computer, you got to do schoolwork, you got to watch film, there's blue light blocking glasses that you can buy. So just like nutrition, it's not something where you have to, the key to those things is, well, what can you stick to and what's sustainable? Because you can try and make these massive changes and adjustments in your life, but if you can't stick to them, well, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? So it's like, no, you're 100% right. That's something that's crucial. And those are some little practical things that you can apply, of like blue light blocking glasses, night mode on your phone.
And it makes your phone kind of go like a yellowish,
orange
hue. Yeah, orangish hue. So I think, those little tips and tricks seem to be easy fixes, right? But you just got to apply them day after day, until it becomes a habit. And then once it becomes a habit, it's just part of who you are. And I think that's healthy eating, that's healthy sleeping, that's training and developing. That's all those little things turn you into a person who can make a huge difference for the person you want to be, right? Because far too many times kids say that they see that pro athlete, or they see that influencer, if you will. They see that person who is who they think they want to be, but they sorely misunderstand and misadjust their viewpoint of who that person is and what it took to get them to that point.
Sure.
I mean, take any business owner, take any star athlete, take anybody in a high position in a company, and they assume, well, I could do that. I mean, I could, I can just go start a business just like that. And it's like, okay, well, we'll try it. But you don't, like, and Andy Frisella, we'll use him as an example. He continually talks about when he was young and starting out in business, and they had nothing and they were making no money, and people, probably looked down on them. He probably had plenty of people saying, well, what are he and his buddy doing? Like, they're idiots. They don't know what they're doing. And, but it's the perseverance through that, and be willing to take it on the chin day after day after day, knowing that you're doing the little things right. And believe me, it tests your faith, because, like, I know from personal experience, like, starting a business, it's no fun. There's a lot of days where you expect things to go the way they're supposed to go. You think they should, and you've prepared for it to go that way, and then you get your teeth kicked in.
Yeah.
Then you get your teeth kicked in again and again and again, and it's how you respond to that. And then you look, and then people will walk in today and go, oh, you got such an easy job, man. I love what you do. Well, yeah, but if you knew the angst and the struggle, you might not think it's as cool as you think it is, right? And that doesn't, I don't know if that ever stops, right? Like, you don't get to a point where it's all better. It's never that point. As an athlete, it's never all better, right? There's angst at every level, and it's how you respond to that angst is the most critical component, I think. And so, I just think kids got to hear that message over and over and over. That's why I'm just happy to hear you. And I knew, knowing who you are and what your experience has been, would have that similar mindset for another voice to be, letting them understand that this is not going to be an easy path, but that's athletics. And then you got to transition to the rest of your life, whether you make it to the pros or not. You're still going to be a human being in society and trying to drive value for yourself, your family, and your company, whoever you're with. But like, the thing I want to jump to, I know we're jumping around, but I want to jump because we got a few minutes left. You're in your position at First Phorm. What all do you do, and like, what is your kind of your day-to-day responsibilities?
Totally. And before I answer that, Matt, I'm going to do this again, because you touched on something that, again, I just want to reiterate, and it's so good. Man, I think that's one of the great illusions, that people see and tell themselves, is just they look at people that are successful, whether it's Andy Frisella, or whether it's, Ed Milet, or whether it's a guy like yourself, or, any professional athlete, and they're like, man, they had it lucky, or, it's God-given, or things like that. And it's, man, I've had the blessing to be around a lot of high achievers, and a lot of people that have done some pretty spectacular things. And it's, the day-to-day is not spectacular. What makes people successful in that way is they do the little things that nobody else wants to do very consistently, and they do it day in and day out. It's just, that's the great secret that I found, man, with these high achievers is it's just doing the little things every single day consistently and being disciplined in that process. As an athlete, it's waking up every single day, eating the right food, being disciplined to that. It's going to the weight room. It's getting to bed on time. It's watching film on time. Like, if you do those things consistently and you stack those things over days, over weeks, over months, over years, that's what leads to a Kobe Bryant. That's what leads to a Tom Brady. That's what leads to an Andy Frisella. Andy would tell it to you himself, man. He was just an ordinary guy who grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, grew up on a gravel road. And, man, he's grown to be one of the top entrepreneurs in America. And it's because, to your point, the discipline to take hits on the chin and to keep showing up, And that's a big part of it, but the other part is, man, he just does the little things very well consistently over time. And that's what leads to spectacular individuals who do special things. But anyways, to get around to your question, so what I do at First Phorm, so I work like on the influencer side of things, which is a funny side of the business to be on, man, because I never thought I'd be working in the social media side of things. But yeah, man, God works in mysterious ways, and I feel like he's really put me in, just in general, having the opportunity to find, to connect with Cody at First Phorm and to have the opportunity to work there and to be in the position I'm in now. It was just kind of a weird sequence of events. But yeah, so
it's never an accident.
Yeah, for sure. I truly believe that. But yeah, so I work in our influencer program. So a lot of who we work with, we work with a lot of people who are online trainers, gym owners, personal trainers. They have social media followings. We'll partner with those individuals. So I've gotten to work alongside his name's Cody. He's Andy's right-hand guy. And I've gotten to really just be on that side of things. I help manage people more so. I go out and find individuals too. I kind of built my career on the sales side of things. Sales is something that I really enjoy. And that's, I feel like, what has helped me get in a position like that. And I've also gotten to play a little bit in terms of, sponsorships with different training facilities. I mean, that's how we ended up partnering. Cody, myself, we were looking for some different, because we're branching off into the team sports side of things. We're going to start making football uniforms. We've kind of tested that out. We're going to do that across all sports. And, our app, we're going to potentially do some cool things with that to really be able to outfit like a football program,
awesome.
Top to bottom with nutrition. And I don't even know if I'm supposed to be talking about that, but I already talked about it.
But it's stuff that is all needed.
Yeah, for sure. So we're definitely getting involved in that space. And so I'm excited to have the opportunity that I have and to be at First Phorm and to be able to work in that space. And I think for us, we're going to continue to get involved in the sports world. And, I think as a young athlete in today's age, it's a part of it, whether you want it to be or not. Social media is there, and, you can leverage your name, image, and likeness. And, that's the cool thing about it. And it's kind of
or you can disqualify yourself.
Yeah,
correct?
Or you can do that for sure. But it's kind of the Wild West right now, in terms of influencer deals with college athletes and how that stuff's playing out. And, who knows what's to come with some of the legislation and, the NCAA and all that. It's kind of all up in the air, it seems like.
Yeah, actually, that's a great tease. We're going to have a guy on next week talking about a lot of legislation and some of the lawsuits with the antitrust, and NCAA's got itself a real issue. And we've talked about this numerous times. They might not be around in 4, 5, 6 years. I mean, it's that getting to that point. And, but, to the point on the influencers, there's things that you probably see that disqualify people immediately, right? That's probably things that are not going to represent your brand well. Like they might have a big following, but it's language, it's level of content, it's how they communicate in DMs. Kids have to understand they're a brand, whether they like it or not. And it's a brand people are buying or selling, right? Or ignoring.
Yeah. And,
I think communicating with people, like I'm sure you've seen all types of examples of people giving not ideal feedback that you just write them off, right?
Yeah,
immediately. Like how they communicate back with you or how they approach you.
Definitely.
I saw something the other day with a young kid wrote something to somebody about reposting. And he was talking as if he was talking to a friend, and the adult in the room said, "Do not talk to me that way." And it's not going to be. We're not going to do anything that you desire, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But what are some tips and tricks for like kids building their brand? Maybe as we end here, like, what are some thoughts around like some basics to building yourself, your a little brandable,
totally.
At least something brandable in the sense that people are going to look and go, "That's a good person. That person's someone I want to be around."
Yeah, for sure. I think that, Matt, a lot of great points in that. And I think when you look at social media, whether you're a fitness influencer, whether you're an athlete, whether you run a training facility like yourself, or you're a podcaster, whomever, social media is almost like the modern day business card, right? Like this is how the public is going to view you and like judge you. And, so you have to be very aware of that. I even think back in the fitness space, you're 100% right. If their social media is just all about them showing off their body and that's all it is, it's like, man, I don't want to work with somebody like that. Or we're looking for people who are out there trying to make an impact, trying to help people, trying to provide value. From an athlete standpoint, I can remember specifically a kid that came across my desk and that, was interested in working with us. And I went into his social media, and I mean, dude, it was just a ton of profanity and curse words and, them out at the bar. And, it's like, man, that's what you're showing to companies, to potential, you lost a potential partnership opportunity, and I'm sure it wasn't the only one because he was a gifted athlete. But so you have to be conscious of stuff like that, and I think that even from a high school athlete standpoint, all these kids have it, Twitter, Instagram, man, be conscious of what you're resharing, be conscious of what you're liking, be conscious of what you're posting. That will absolutely affect your ability to get deals, to potentially lose scholarships. I mean, that's a real thing, So while social media is going to be a very powerful tool to leverage yourself, leverage your brand, the money out there now is crazy. Those types of opportunities are real, but it can also be a very dangerous thing.
Yeah, and so what I think is interesting for like the high school and middle school athlete, they're thinking it's down line. That's not necessarily the case, because there's instances where there's kids that have deals, NIL deals, when they're in middle school and high school. So like to think that it's like some distant goal, right? Or some distant, destination of like, well, I'm going to get there down the line. I can screw off today. It does not work that way. They will go back and look at what your past behavior was. You're not scrubbing all that stuff off.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's been case after case after case where kids said things in middle school that they didn't know what they were saying or didn't mean, but people got to distance themselves from that because they don't want to be around it. And then, although it was adolescent, harmless behavior at the time with you and your buddies, it does not work in the real world. And no one wants to deal with that stuff. And being controversial online might get you a few clicks, but it's not going to get you people that you want to be dealing with, right?
Totally.
So.
Yeah, no, and even in our case, like we're working with a middle school quarterback, and he's got to deal with us, and you guys should look him up. His name's J.D. Gillum. The kid is unbelievably talented. God willing, I have no doubt that he's going to be based off his talent and how I've seen him throw and his ability, man, he's going to be a big-time quarterback. And just a part of the reason why I love him and working with him and his father and having him a part of our company is, man, the kid represents us so well. He's a young man of values. He's a young man of faith. He represents himself well. And I think
he works hard.
Totally, and I think that when it comes to little things that you can start to do as a middle school athlete, a high school athlete, to build your brand, you got to post. That's the only way that you're going to grow your social media platform, other than growing your just aura as an athlete. If you're somebody that's unbelievably gifted, has a lot of offers, you're going to naturally get followers and things like that.
Yeah, you will.
Even still, those guys, in order to, even for me, when I'm evaluating college athletes, it's like, we're not going to work with a guy unless he posts frequently.
Yeah, he's got to be active, right?
What can he really do for us, So you got to be posting frequently. And it doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be overcomplicated, man. Just share what you're about. Share you in the gym working out, you training. Share maybe clips of you playing football, you and your buddies, you and your family. Just start to post frequently, consistently. Just like being in the gym. If you're in the gym consistently, you're going to get results over time. Social media works that way too. The more you post in due time, and again, like anything, it doesn't just happen overnight. It's not going to happen in weeks or months. It's probably going to happen in a couple of years. But if you start now, in 7th grade, 8th grade, freshman year, by the time you get to college, look, even if you're not a Division I player, but you have a great social media platform and you post frequently and you have great values, companies like us, we want to work with you, probably over a guy that has a huge following. And, in reality, those guys are getting the type of money that maybe we can't even play in, right?
Yeah.
So, or that we don't, that's not worth it for us, right? So there's a ton of value in building your brand. Again, it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. And again, there is caution to it. Make sure that you're just not being dumb at the end of the day. And, kind of leave it at that.
Well, Evan, we hit on a lot of stuff that I think, obviously nutrition, supplementation, to fill in those gaps, right? Getting the vitamin, all the things, the little things, sleep, social media. To me, doing all these little things. If you picked up the common thread, it's doing the little things over and over and over, and then looking back at some point and going, man, that actually worked. Yeah. Well, it's getting around the right people, listening to the right people. Anybody that tells you there's a quick fix is lying. Anybody that tells you they got the answer, they're lying. They are simply trying to detach from reality and then get you to buy into an emotion rather than using logic. And logic is how you win. Emotion is great when checked. Logic rules the day because you can then compare two ideas to one another and decide which one you believe is the better path for you, right?
For sure.
So as we wrap here, Evan, well, how do people get a hold of you?
You can follow me on Instagram, and my tag is @_E Johnson. And if there's any young athletes that have questions, or if there's anything that you heard today that you want to learn more about, or if there's anything that in general that you think that I could help with, if that's nutrition, sleep, social media, faith, anything like that, please reach out. I'd love to help you. I'm an open line, and I'll do what I can to support you guys. It's something I'm just passionate about, man. Again, at the end of the day, I made a lot of mistakes and continue to make mistakes. And if I can help anybody learn from those things, or give some advice, or even one practical thing that maybe you took from what I said today, or man, that's an awesome thing. So if there's anything I could do, just reach out, let me know. Super
excited for you to come in. I'm excited because I know what we talked about should resonate with a lot of people. And I think, we have a pretty unique audience. It's a lot of parents, a lot of kids that are in that in that age. And I think hopefully they listen and there is some questions to be asked. So we'll also put a link up on our show notes with to get to the app, because I think that is the first step to, if you don't track it, how do you know? And then also just some first form, some of the different things you might be able to be thinking about that, as from a supplementation standpoint, that I know for a fact they work. Okay. I've seen it. I know of in my own body. I know it works. So, but yeah, you guys, appreciate you, everybody tuning in today. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll be on YouTube, Twitter, Spotify, Apple, all the different main culprits. You can always reach us at football360show.com, and then at football360show on Instagram, and then I can be reached at Elite Football on X and Elite Football Academy on Instagram. So again, I know we'll send a salute out to our guy JP. He'll be back next week. Evan, can't thank you enough, and definitely go give him a follow and hit him up with any questions you might have. Until then, we'll see you next week.